Okay, welcome back to Philosophy Roulette. This is number 24. Actually, I think it's only the 23rd I've done because I think I forgot the number 16. My apologies, number 16, but hey, I can't count. Last we did was How to Build a Thought by Joshua Rasmussen and Andrew M. Bailey. Brought the Fire. And let's do maybe another one from forthcoming in the Thought Journal. I wonder if the people in like Thought Journal saw How to Build a Thought. They were like, "Well, are you trying to tell us how to run our journal?" Probably not. We did an article from Bentz already, so I'm not going to even look at that one from now. Let's do something from When Shapes and Sounds Begin. Oh, hey, Cathal Madigan. Why not? Cathal Madigan, I'm sorry. Cathal, not Cathan. Wait, is that just me? Oh, I just misread it. Download from archive. Thank you, Madigan, because I have no idea what a Cathal is. Let's update the... So now if you type paper into the text when you get here, you will be able to get a link to this page. And if you are watching this later on the YouTubes, there's a link in the description below. Oh, trouble with Indexicals. Okay. I didn't even read past the colon before. That's okay. Okay. The trouble with Indexicals. Dun dun dun. Alrighty, let's see. Yep. Alright, onward. That was the fastest I've actually chosen any paper. Kaplan 79 proposed that the meaning of Indexicals like I, here, and now is fixed by rules he called their character. When coupled with a context, which is a set of indices picking out an agent, time, and place, the character identifies a content for an indexical, which is what the indexical refers to. The content of I is the agent at the context, the content of here is the place of the context, and the content of now is the time of the context. Kaplan then proposes that admissible or proper contexts are restricted to those in which the agent is at the time and place of the context. As a result, the following string will always be true. I am here now. Where indexicals are produced in token utterances, Kaplan's schema is generally taken to imply that I will refer to the agent that produces the token, here to the place of the production, and now to the time of the production. This makes sense of many typical uses of indexicals. If Superman, standing on Krypton on the 1st of April 1938, says, "I'm here now," the token I picks out Superman, here picks out Krypton, and now picks out the 1st of April 1938, the producer, the place of production, and the time of production. However, many other cases where indexicals are produced have been identified that do not follow this pattern. One can, for example, record the following message on an answering machine: "I am not here now." When this message is played back to a caller, the token now appears to refer not to the time the token is produced by the agent, but to the time when the message is played back. Similarly, recall the tour guide in Jurassic Park who conducts his tour remotely. His voice is projected over a loudspeaker on the tour bus while he remains safe in a central office. As the tour bus is passing the Tyrannosaurus Rex enclosure, he can say, "Here you can see a T-Rex." Here you can see T-Rex. Is that what he says? What did Victor Kiley say? I don't know. Okay. I mean, I think he says on the right you can see Dilophosaurus. So I love Jurassic Park. And they're like, Dilophosaurus! But there's no Dilophosaurus. Anyway. But in this case, the token here refers not to the location of the tour guide, but to the location of the bus where his voice is broadcast. Again, the location of the production is not the location picked out by here. As a result of cases like these, many have argued that a speaker's intentions must play a role in deciding the meaning of a token a token indexical has. It has been argued that intention is fixed from one case to the next, either their character that governs a token indexical, the context in which a token indexical is supposed to be evaluated, or the content of a demonstrative component that may belong to indexicals, supposing I, here, and now are equivalent to this person, this place, and this time. According to these views, the reference of a token indexical is determined by its producer's intentions, and not just who produces it or when. This allows that a token of now can refer to the time of playback of an answering machine message, for example, just in case the person who records the token intends either the character, the context of interpretation, or demonstrative content of the indexical to deliver the time of hearing as the reference of the token, and similarly just for the Jurassic Park and other cases. The difficulty faced by the intentional strategy is that it makes it hard to explain how uses of indexicals are easily understood. We have no trouble understanding utterances of 1, 2, or 3, but if a producer's intentions can adjust the character, context, or content of a token indexical so that it picks out whatever person, place, or time they like, then it is unclear how hearers confidently know what uses of these indexicals refer to. If nothing stops a speaker from intending a token of now, she records into her answering machine to refer to 1,000 years past. Why is it that hearers always know that the token picks out the time of hearing? And if nothing stops a tour guide in the above case from intending here to refer to the moon, why does his audience immediately know which location he is referring to? This has become the standard objection to the intentionalist approach. To avoid this problem, others argue that the meaning of indexicals must be constrained by conventional rules to a greater degree than the intentionalist allows. Some of these proposals appeal to multiple rules and hold that the rules that applies is determined not by a producer's intention, but by non-inferential features of the context. Non-intentional features of the context, not inferential. Whatever I said, it's non-intentional features of the context. On an answering machine, the rule will fix the time of hearing as the time picked out by a token of now, but in face-to-face discourse, the rule fixes at the time of speaking. But this view has implausible implications too. If indexicals were governed by many rules, they should be hard for us to learn and to use, and yet they don't seem to be. The multiple rule approach also suggests that indexicals are ambiguous, something that we have independent reasons to doubt. What would avoid all of these problems, of course, is an account that explains our various uses of indexicals by assigning just one rule to each indexical type, but without requiring the speaker intentions to arbitrate on what accounts as context or content from one token to the next. Cohen has recently argued that we can accomplish exactly this. What is required is what Cohen calls a token contextualist interpretation of Kaplan's model, a proposal he attributes originally to Seidel. On this view, the content of I, here, and or now is not the agent, place, or time in the context of production, but the agent, place, or time in the context of tokening. Importantly, for typical uses of indexicals where the producer, place, and time of production is referred with I, here, and now, this model will deliver the same results as the production contextual model, since in such cases the context of tokening will be the same as the context of production, but the account promises to deal with the atypical cases considered too. The token now in a message playback by an answering machine refers to the time the message is played back, not produced, and the token contextual account predicts this since the time of playback is the time of tokening, the time the token occurs. And the token here in the tour guide's message in Jurassic Park refers to not to the location of production of the message, but to the location of tokening, the place the token occurs, which is on the tour bus. Since it avoids the difficulties faced by more elaborate approaches, this account is well worth pursuing. However, there is a set of problem cases for the account that are largely unexplored, which threatens to entirely upend this view. Traveling tokens, stray tokens, extra tokens. Difficulties arise for the token contextual view when tokens occur in places or at times that they don't seem to refer to. Cases are already discussed include the following. Suppose I inscribe a note on a postcard, "I wish you were here," and send it from Tahiti to Ireland. We use the token here in such cases to refer to Tahiti, and yet the token ends up and is read in Ireland. The token contextual view seems to imply as a result that here refers to Ireland. The token here it refers to Ireland. Cohen argues that such cases may be understood anaphorically when the reference of here is anaphorically fixed by a location specific elsewhere on the postcard, such as the postmark. It is acknowledged that the details underpinning this kind of anaphora are not clearly understood, but for the sake of argument, let's suppose that that's a possible solution. Even if we allow it, there are more serious problems. Alright, so that's interesting. Yeah, if you write on a postcard, I wish you were here, and it usually refers to the front of the postcard or the postmark where it's like a pretty scene. So the place of the tokening is the scene of the postcard. Usually it's like, that's why you get all, that's funny. Nowadays with the, well, not currently, of course, because no one's taking pretty pictures of themselves on vacation at the moment because everyone's locked inside. But basically, people like to go show off all the fancy things they're doing on the social medias, and it's sort of like to show, I wish you were here now, but of course, it's referring to that fancy scene, which is usually gerrymandered to a high extent to make it look like a glamorous life, but it's a lot harder to have glamorous life. And there goes the big cup of coffee for the day. Alright, so what's the more serious problems? Consider a case discussed by Predelli 98. A note is written in the morning by Jones for his wife, who he expects to return to the house at 4 p.m. Jones writes, "As you can see, I'm not here now," on the note. However, his wife returns at 10 p.m. and reads the note then. The token contextual account seems to imply the Indexical picks out 10 p.m. when it is read, and yet Predelli's reasonable intuition that Jones' wife misunderstood the note as if she takes it to refer to 10 p.m. Cohen replies to this in case by simply rejecting Predelli's intuition and insisting that token does indeed refer to 10 p.m. I don't find this convincing, particularly in light of the following analogous case. Alright, well, let's see, because that's an interesting case, but there's probably a few ways to take it, because it's an unusual situation, because mistakes were made in the setup. He assumed she'd come back at 4 and came back at 10 and 10 p.m. And yeah, so there was a mistake to begin with. So once that happens, you're going to get mistakes all around. I don't find this convincing, particularly in light of the following analogous case. Suppose a restaurant manager places a sign on the door of her restaurant reading, "Please wait here to be seated." The sign seems to refer to its location, just as the token contextual account predicts. But consider what happens if the sign is thoughtlessly moved by a cleaner from its current position to a broom closet at the rear of the building. A customer looking for the restroom now sees the sign through the open closet door. Just as in Predelli's case, where the note is read at a time other than is intended, this case is the sign is read in a place other than it is intended. Okay, so not the time, but the place is wrong. Since Cohen is committed that Predelli's note refers to the time it is read, well, the place it is read, because if you're switching time and place, you should be consistent here. He should be committed in this case that the customers have been asked to wait in the broom closet. That this is doubtful is even clearer when we think about where the sign in the restaurant came from in the first place. Presumably somewhere in the world there is a factory that makes these signs. In the corner of the factory, a stack of "Please wait here" signs sits ready to be dispatched to restaurants. Do the signs in the stack form a course inviting people to wait next to them? Cohen's position seems to commit him to the implausible claim that they do. We could call such cases stray tokens, which either end up or start out where nobody intended them to be. Well, I mean, when do they become tokens? I mean, we have these words that eventually form sentences that are tokens then, but they're not stray tokens like the words on the page. Just like if I pick out a few different words, like, and I build a "please wait here" out of like this word over here, this word over here, this word over here, this word over here, or whatever. I mean, we could call that a stray token. It's an unrealized stray token at that point, because it's not of the normal token looking sort of thing, but it is there on the page if I were only just to have looked at it the right way. If I look at one spot, then another spot, then another spot, I mean, is that a stray token? So I'm not entirely sure what makes something a token in that case, but then we might be getting back to the intentional account. Yeah, I think it's a good point though that tokens can go astray. So I have to think about that more. I'm not entirely sure because I'm not familiar with this this literature, so I don't know what the I'm not like big on Indexicals. I guess, well, not for any good reason other than I've just not really done it. Yeah, so we'll see. All right, let's continue. But I fear that the stray tokens may be a little too strong of an argument because everything's a stray token then. So yeah, maybe they only obtain as tokens at a certain time. Okay, but again, mistakes were lots of mistakes were made, so in some sense that may screw up all sorts of things. And if you have a theory that has to predict the right answer in all cases, even when other mistakes were made in the formulation of the words, or when they were done, like things like the time got moved or the place got moved, the idea that you have a theory that explains for everything in cases where mistakes were made to begin with, you're explaining mistakes. You're not explaining the phenomenon that you meant to explain to begin with. So you're explaining a mistake of that phenomenon. So there's a question there about what exactly the target is here. If you're explaining a mistake, well, that might be different than explaining the phenomenon at hand. The difficulties don't end there. Perhaps the most pervasive problem for a token contextual account is what we call extra tokens. When my message "I'm not here now" is played back to someone whose call I miss, the token now refers to the time of tokening. At that one time? Yes, but you know you're doing something false when you say that. That's why it's kind of fun saying that. I mean, I'm always I watched Terminator 1 and 2 a million billion times, and of course Sarah Connor on her message machines what's it go? She says hello and then says, "Ah ha ha, I fooled you" on her answering machine. I'm not here right now, but machines need love too. So very cutesy. But I mean, it's a joke when you say that. You know you're saying something false. But there's another apparent token in this case that the token contextualist does not explain. When I originally record the message into my answers, I produce an apparent token of "I'm not here now." The token seems to apply this event I refer to at the time which I speak. The account threatens as a result to make all answer phone users liars. Yes, but that's the point. Like, you don't. It's a joke. That's okay if you say something false at that time. We're allowed to say false things, especially as a joke. That's the whole point of a lot of jokes. They don't actually obtain in the real world, but they're funny, and that's why we like them. Yeah. So, again, if you're explaining mistakes in your theory, I'm not sure if you always get to the heart of the theory, but that doesn't mean that the target of this argument, they may want to explain those cases, and so this may actually be all on target, because if the original authors, the original proponents of this account, expect to explain these sorts of cases, then they do have a problem here. The same problem arises for the tour guide. Although the sentence here you see the T-Rex is tokened out on the tour bus, another parent token of the sentence occurs in the office where the tour guide speaks. Does he lie and tell the truth at the same time? No, he lies originally and tells the truth later, or the token tells the truth later. Well, actually it doesn't, because you can't see any, they see very few animals on the tour bus. Or consider an ordinary telephone conversation. If I speak to you in Alaska and say "I'm here now" while speaking in Paris, one apparent token of "here" occurs where I am, and another is produced in Alaska for you to hear. Do I refer to both locations simultaneously and contradict myself? I'm not sure what the location is when you're saying that. When I say "I'm here now" on the phone, I actually mean I'm on the phone now. And so that's definitely true. And the phone connection exists in both Alaska and Paris. Like, your voice exists in that space. And so, I mean, I just would disagree with this, because I'd say the real location at that point is on the airwaves. Or the internet waves, whatever it may be. So, But yeah, fixing this might be a real problem for the people that have this view. Finally, in a particular perplexing case, consider a billboard at the side of a motorway that reads, "You are now entering beautiful Poughkeepsie." I'm sure there probably is a sign like that. Yeah, Poughkeepsie. I was like, don't go. Sorry, I'm from New York. And I was like, wait, is Poughkeepsie New Rochelle? I was like, do not go to New Rochelle. Do not. Yeah. If we suppose a temporal indexical tokens at a time, and that the inscription on the billboard tokens what is read by passing drivers, then the token contextual account predicts rightly that the inscription refers to the occasions in which it is passed. But what about the occasions when the sign is not being passed? The token contextual account does nothing to rule out those occasions, and so implies that what the sign displays the majority of the time is at best nonsense, and at worst a lie. Yeah, but I mean, who cares about accusing a sign of lying? I mean, it's called advertising and propaganda. It happens constantly. This seems like another bizarre outcome for the token contextual view. Yeah, this is a bizarre outcome, though. Like, exactly how to explain, I guess, standing tokens, just like that, are out there all the time, but only matter when they're being interacted with. So it's like an interactionist view, maybe I'm thinking about here. Can the token contextuals deal with these cases? As I argue next, you can by appealing. Oh, we're back to speaker intentions. However, by making appeal to speaker intentions at the level of the metaphysics of tokens, rather than in order to decide their meaning. This can be done without reintroducing the difficulties associated with intentionalist approaches that the conventionalist hopes to avoid. Okay, so yeah, I think there's solutions to all these things. Maybe that's why it was set up this way. In fact, I'm sure that's why it was set up this way. Philosophers tend to be actually smart and generally know what they're doing, and the setups are going to lead to the conclusions that they want to get to. Yeah. It's like there's a movie with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Sean Connery, and they're thieves, and that's called entrapment. And at some point they disappear off a security camera, and there's people in the security like, where'd they go? And one of the guys that was like tracking them is just like, these people are very smart. If you can't see them, it's because they don't want to be seen. That's kind of how it is in philosophy. These people are very smart. And if you're thinking something, it's because they want you to be thinking that thing. Nobody should believe that intentions have no role at all to play in asemantic theory. Intentions, after all, are required to turn a shape or sound into a semantic token in the first place. Suppose a rock trapped in a glacier slowly carves the shape, "I am not here now," into a wall of granite it passes. Millikan 2012. Does anyone think that the rock tells a lie? Yeah, that's right. Why should signs be lying? It's just a sign. Hopefully not. The rock is obviously incapable of saying anything. Although, and I bet there's people that would argue that. I'm not prepared to do it at the moment. Although an inscription of the shape "I'm not here now" can under some circumstances mean "I'm not here now," what at least, yeah, I recently heard someone made a comment, say like the ocean waves carved an algorithm into the sand just by dumb luck. Would that be, how would we understand like that proof of that algorithm? Is something proved at that point? This is an interesting stuff. It can be very interesting actually. This problem. Under some circumstances mean "I'm not here now" was at least required for this to happen is that some agents intend it to express this meaning. This is simply to restate the point made by Grice. Yeah, a million years ago at this point in philosophy time. Actually, no time. Actually, this is 1957. There's nothing in philosophy time. What am I saying? State the point made by Grice that isolates the class of linguistically meaningful events from everything else, including scratches made by glaciers, shapes and clouds, and noises made by cats that sound like "hello." Although, maybe the cat does, I don't know. No one really knows what the cat's thinking. And I do think cats think. I mean, really? Yeah, so... I mean, maybe this one has to be gotten rid of the more we learn about cat psychology. Although Grice's full conditions for a shape or sound to count as an utterance are often considered too strong, this minimal component of his view is widely endorsed. All these people. We could call this view minimal intentionalism, which holds that some morphological token phi, a shape or sound, is a semantic token and utterance with the meaning P only if it is intended by user S to express P. MI. Phi is a semantic token, meaning P implies S. Well, I think we need a parentheses around here. Phi is a semantic token meaning P implies that S intends that phi expresses P. Yeah, so would have been a little bit helpful to have okay, because otherwise if you did it the other way around, you this sort of break, like if it was around the P and the S, because the way the italics work, sometimes you're using italics to do a form. Yeah, oh well. Maybe they can correct this before, because this is a early access paper. Maybe they can fix the formatting there. One hopes. To distinguish utterances of hello from the cat's meow. Oh, is that how you spell meow? Oh, yeah. I think based on the name, this person's like Irish or like from some northern British isle. I'm not that good at this, but like that's a much cooler way to spell meow than we do here in the States. It would seem that any theory of meaning needs to endorse something like MI. Okay, so I'm using this theory. This is the coolest thing. I'm using this from now on. Thank you, author. Who are we? So if I get nothing else from Cathal O'Madigan's paper, I have a much cooler way of spelling meow. And that's really the least of this paper, but yes, I'm happy about that. It would seem that the theory of meaning needs to endorse something like this, MI. Crucially, however, the appeal to intentions in MI is very different from that made on the more liberal intentionalist account considered above, on which the speaker's intentions, and arbitrate between multiple possible reference of a token indexicals have. This is the result of the conventionalist want. This is the result the conventionalist wants to block and replace with a semantic rule that determines just one possible reference for any token indexical, thus minimizing the interpretation work demanded of hearers. Okay, but the conventionalist can do this while still endorsing MI, even if the only reference of a token here can have its location of tokening. For example, it can still be the case that for a morphological token to be a token indexical in the first place, it must be intended to be by its user. Okay. Yeah, by its user, not by its creator. Maybe that's what is going on here. In spite of its modesty, however, MI has quite far-reaching consequences for the metaphysics of token utterances, which can be invoked to resolve the problems raised here for token contextualism. First, let's give this a little user. Can invoke to resolve the problems raised here for token contextualism. First, consider the extra tokens problem. In the production of an answering machine message, in addition to the sounds produced by the answering machine when someone calls, the recorder produces the sound "I'm not here now" in recording the message, and this creates an apparent problem for the token contextualist. Well, a little problem maybe. But MI eliminates the problem. If the producer doesn't intend the noise that comes out of her mouth at the time of recording the message to express the proposition "I'm not here now," but intends only the sound subsequently produced by the answering machine to express that proposition, the sound initially produced is not a semantic token at all, it's just a noise. Then why are they making just noises? Really, like, then you have a problem of what they're up to at that time if they're just making a noise. Note again that speaker intentions are not arbitrating here because many possible meanings for a given semantic token as they are on more liberal content. Note again that speaker intentions are not arbitrating here between many possible meanings for a given semantic as they are on more liberal intentionalist accounts. Instead, they are invoked to decide for a given morphological token whether it counts as a semantic token in the first place. Alright, see, I wouldn't call it just a noise. They're speaking something false at that time, but like, it's a joke. It's not meant to be it's, as they set up here, it's intended by the user. So they're saying something for later consumption, and so it's not that they're just making a noise, it's just that it's sort of like in holding what they're saying. I wouldn't say that they're saying something false. They're saying that it's just not ready to be, that sentence is not ready to be heard. It's sort of like it's on a delay, which it completely is. So it's a delayed token. But I think mostly this is a good account so far, because the user interaction seems to be what is critical. MI similarly resolves the tour guide problem. The tour guide causes two morphological tokens to be produced, one in the tour bus and one in his office, which raises a problem for the token contextualist. But if the guide does not intend the sound he makes in his office to express any meaning, or I'd say expresses meaning only after it's later, at a later time, but rather intends only the sound on the bus to, then we can rule out the former as a non-utterance. Okay, fine. And this resolves the puzzle raised by the telephone call to. The sound here I produce in Paris is intended to have semantic content by its user me. According to the token contextual account, it picks out Paris. But if the sound produced by the telephone Alaska is not intended by me to express anything, then according to MI, it simply doesn't count as a semantic token. The first advantage of MI then is that it resolves the extra token problem. Yeah, again, I have a problem with this particular example because I don't think it picks up the right location. I think it means on the phone when you say you're here on the phone, and that actually is in both places at once, because it's on the airwaves is where you're actually saying, well, are you here? It's like, well, I'm on the airwaves. I mean, if you mean here in Paris, then it'd be weird to be saying something in, well, if someone in Alaska asks you if you're in Paris and you say, yes, I'm here, you could say, yes, I'm here in Paris. Okay. And so that is referring to your location there, but it would actually mean that you are here in Paris. And yeah, okay. Now I'm understanding it a little bit better. Depends on what you meant by being here. Are you here on the phone, or are you here in Paris? Okay, but the sound here produced in Paris and have semantic count by its user me, according to token in Paris, but the sound produced by the telephone Alaska. Well, who's the user then? If you're answering a question about where you are, if you are in Paris, the user is, okay, the person in Alaska would be hearing what you're saying, but they understand that you're referring to yourself when you're the one using the word here at that point, and then they would actually not be using the word here, but they're using the I am here, that whole sentence, as understanding what you're meaning because you are the person referring to stuff at that time. Okay, that's actually, yeah, that's reasonable. They're not thinking about the word here, they're thinking about the whole sentence at that point, which is not which is separate from the indexical within the sentence. The consequences of MI reach farther still, however. Note that morphological tokens exist at particular places and times. If user intentions are required for morphological tokens to count as semantic tokens, these intentions must be directed at shapes and sounds in particular places and at particular times. The consequence of this is that morphological tokens can change from being mere shapes and sounds to being semantic tokens and back again. To see how this works, suppose I inscribe "this is a wall" on a post-it note and then affix the note to the wall. Once this note is affixed to the wall, it seems I have said something true, or the note says something true. But before I stick the note to the wall, we are not tempted to think that I have lied, even if the note starts out on a table. Why not? The reason is that the inscription only becomes a semantic token when I stick it to the wall, since it is only while it is on the wall that I intend it to express anything. Yeah, this is like you hold off on the semantics. I mean, that doesn't make it nonsense when it's on the note, because otherwise, how would you know what to write? Equally, I'm not made a liar if the note later falls off the wall and lands on the floor, as sticky notes are wont to do after enough time. because my intention is only for this inscription to express something when it is fixed to the wall. Outside of the time and place at which it is intended by me to express something, it loses its semantic tokenhood. No, I'd say it's just wrong when it's on the floor. I mean, you might not be wrong because you were only intended at the time, but the note's wrong when it falls to the floor. Oh, see, look at this. This footnote here. Is I think what I was something similar to what some of my worries about the Paris, Alaska thing. Okay, good, very good. This consequence of MI resolves the stray token problem. In Predeli's case, Jones writes the note in the morning, expecting to be read at 4 p.m., but it isn't read until 10 p.m. Cohen bites a bullet and concludes that the indexical in the note picks out 10 p.m. But it follows from MI that this is not necessary. If Jones only intends the inscription on the paper to be counted as an utterance at 4 p.m., then MI entails that it only counts as an utterance at that time. On this view, the indexical tokens at 4 p.m. when it is intended to. Yeah, I'm not in love with this. But it does not token at the time Jones writes the note, which, yes, this is right. It does not token at the time Jones writes the note. You can delay your tokening, I think. But I don't know, once you start, I don't know if you can, the stopping is in your control. Like, once you make something a token, I'm not sure it's fair if you get to end it either. That's something different, which would make him a liar, as he writes. And if Jones intends it only to be a token at 4 p.m., it will cease to be a token semantic after 4 p.m. when the inscription will return to being simply a shape. This is the broken clock problem. A broken clock is right twice a day. Now, is it right? Is it lying the rest of the time, or is the whole thing broken? It's like, yeah, broken clock. I mean, the clock intends to tell the right time. When the time isn't right, which actually, I mean, all considering, I mean, what is a perfect clock that tells the exact right time according to some time standard? I mean, clocks are always wrong, but like we intend them to be close enough. But like a broken clock is right twice a day. Now, like, does that make it wrong even when it's right because it wasn't intended? It's intended to work all the time and not only at those 2 times. Yeah, so that might be developed into some sort of argument against this thing here. Although I'm mostly on board with the I really like that the token is a token at time when it is being used thing. I'm not sure about this other stuff. We can therefore maintain the token contextual view without abandoning Predeli's reasonable intuitions about this case. The token indexical picks out 4 p.m., which is the only time at which it is token indexical. All this follows from MI. Yeah, see, if it was token indexical when it was read at 10 p.m., I'm not here, then it is just false. Which it is. Like when the post-it note falls to the floor, it's false. Now, when they wrote it, it was not intended to be tokened at that time, and so they were... I mean, you end up being wrong about lots of stuff. That's not a big deal. Like, saying something false is something we all do, and you become like it was right. Like, right now it says it's 12:19 p.m. on Saturday, what day is today? March 21st. And whenever you guys watch this, likely, it will be slightly later than when I said it. And invariably, even if you're watching this live, which it's possible someone is watching, or at least a bot is watching, then... But that's going to be later than now, and so that's like technically false. But when you hear it, you understand there's that's okay that what I say can be made false. Like if I say my age or something, all right. Forget it. I'm losing the thread of this argument. All right, so let's get back to the essay. All this follows from MI. That shapes and sounds can transition in and out of being utterances is made even clearer when we revisit the case of "please wait here" sign. The stack of signs in the factory easily fails MI since the signs are not intended by anyone to express anything. No, of course they are. Why would they make the signs? And they're intended to make money. All right, not critical. Not what I meant. Not a good criticism. Their producers, the factory workers, are making the signs not with the intention that the signs express something, but that they display particular shapes. Really? That's weird. But now consider what happens when the signs are bought by restaurateurs and positioned intentionally outside the doors of their establishments. Okay, we should, given the current climate, we should have "please wash your hand" signs. and just put them everywhere. What was just a shape on a piece of metal becomes a semantic token because now the shape is used with the intention that expresses a particular meaning. And this resolves the puzzle that arises when the sign is moved to the closet by the cleaner. In this case, the customers are not in fact invited to wait by this absurd location. Rather, since the manager who originally placed the sign intended to express please wait here only when it is at the location at which she places it, it ceases to be a semantic token when it is removed from that position and unthinkingly placed somewhere else. Well, give the cleaner some credit. I mean, maybe they were cleaning up at night and that was where it's supposed to be and the manager forgot to move that out. And of course it can be a semantic token again if it is repositioned anew with the intention that expresses the proposition once again. Yeah, like at night the sign goes in the closet. That is the right place for it to go. Don't hate on the cleaner. The most delicate consequence of MI is found in the case of the billboard reading, "You are now entering beautiful Poughkeepsie, upstate New York." If the token contextual account is right, the token now on the sign refers to the time or times at which it tokens. We want those occasions to be on those which drivers pass the sign, and not indefinitely many occasions on which no one is passing. But again, MI can rule out those occasions, since the person who erects the sign only intends to express the proposition in question when it is seen by a passing driver. This means that what hangs indefinitely on the side of the motorway is not a semantic token at all. Rather, what hangs there indefinitely is simply a shape, which becomes a semantic token only on those occasions that it is passed by a driver. Okay. Yeah, this is the kicker. This was a good example earlier, and it solves this one nicely. To all of this, it might be objected that although I have insisted that this appeal to intentions does not introduce the problems for interpretation of earlier accounts, it introduces difficulties of interpretation of its own. For example, a hearer will have to decide which morphological tokens are utterances and which are simply sounds and shapes. Well, if you see a post-it note on the floor, that's not so hard to figure out that it's probably not meant to be there, and then you're just deciding it's simply sounds and shapes. The noise made in recordings and answer on the phone message, or the noise made at playback. This is true, although the decision will often be relatively easy, yeah. In the answer phone case, if we assume the message leaver is honest and sane, only the sound at playback could be intended to express the proposition "I'm not here now," and hence only that sound could count as a semantic token. But no matter how hard it is to decide which are the semantic tokens, the current account will still leave the interpreters with less work to do than more liberal intentionalist accounts. On this account, once it is decided which are the token indexicals, there is only one possible reference for each, while on the more liberal intentionalist accounts there are still many. As we can see, okay. I mean, do you really need the "as we can see" here? Sorry, this is just my complaints about writing. As we can see, the metaphysics of semantic tokens, you do need something, a segue. Why am I being grumpy? I'm still grumpy from earlier. As we can see, the metaphysics of semantic tokens is thus quite complex, allowing shapes and sounds to transition in and out of being semantic tokens, even assuming no more than modest criterion for semantic tokenhood in MI. For all its complexity, however, I wager that it is quite consistent, and that qualifying the token contextuals to count with these considerations greatly reinforces this promising approach. Okay, I like this essay. Thanks to all these peoples. Okay, it's like I disagree on a few of the details here, but it seems sort of reasonable given the criticisms, assuming they're correct criticisms mounted against the like up here in the beginning that we're given the setup. Okay. So, good essay. I hope my comments were on point. I think I'll be back later. Leave a suggestion if you'd like about something I should review. And have a good day. Stay safe, folks. Bye.